Today we're going to talk a little bit about horse conformation, and to help us we have Buck here. So first we're going to start out going over a little bit of his body parts just to get a little bit of heads up. So when we use terms and oral reasons, we'll know what we're talking about with the horse. So up here, being all curious, is his muzzle right here with his nostrils and his mouth and his eyes. This is called his forelock. You shouldn't really have to talk about that, but if you do need to know, the hair in the front is the forelock. We have his neck, which goes into his shoulder, and his mane is up here, laid on the other side. Down his leg, down to his hoof down there. Through this region, we call this his barrel, which is his entire belly, and his heart girth is the line that goes straight down from the withers up here down to the bottom for his underline. So down here is his underline, his heart girth, and his withers. This is his back, and it goes into his hindquarters. So when you talk about horses, you want to make sure you get a basis of terms throughout all the different horses, just so that the judge knows you know what you're talking about. So a couple of examples, we'll go over a little bit of his conformation, is Buck, for being a 15-year-old horse, he's a quarter horse, so he should be a little bit better balanced. So balancing is when the withers here are the same height as the back of his hindquarters. So at the tallest point of his hindquarters should be level with his withers. He's really not that bad, but it is one of his faults that he can be granted. As well, he's not standing square right now on all four, like we've talked about, and so that can also help to make him not look as balanced as he really is. The big grant that this horse has is that his neck goes very smoothly into his shoulder. He's very well proportioned, and so his head is not too big for his body. His neck goes really well into his shoulder, so it's not too big or not too small. And throughout his entire body, he's just well proportioned, which is a very big thing. Alright, quarter horses are very well known for their very broad structure, and so a large hindquarters is very desired. So if we have a class of just quarter horses, we'd want to look for a broader horse that's more of a stocky type. Another thing that we can talk about is there should be a V in their legs. So down from their hooves up to their chest, if you look here, there should be a V that's made. So a wider V is more of a stocky horse. Buck for a quarter horse is rather petite, and so his V is not very large. But that is one of the things that you can fault him for if he's in a quarter horse class. So a couple more things. Now you can really see his mane right here. So different breeds are going to want different characteristics to do with their mane. Some horses it's supposed to be braided, some horses it can just be wild, and some you don't want a mane at all, you want it to be cut really deep. Other things that you can get for horses is their underline. So if you look here on the very bottom of him, you should see a straight line across, and then it dips up into his underneath. So if you can see it goes straight across and then dip up, that's desired. That would be a grant that you would give a horse in your top of your class. Whereas Buck's, he's a little bit heavy right now, so it kind of dips in like a bowl and then kind of goes up underneath him. So his underline is not very good, so that would be a fault for this particular horse, whereas some horses it can be a very large grant. Other things that are not very nitpicky with horse judging is things like saddle scars or past wounds. So if a horse obviously has a wound from maybe kicking or biting from another horse, or a saddle scar from a saddle not fitting them correctly, that can also be a fault. So Buck has two possible. We're not really sure exactly what happened because they were there when we got him. But this spot right here, if you can see it, as well as the white spot up here, he has another one on the other side, they can be counted as faults against him. You have to be careful faulting horses for that because sometimes it's just part of their natural coloring. And so if you see on Buck, he has a buckskin, that's his color, but he has dapples. So in the winter time, you can see these little white circles that appear all over him. So you have to be careful about color characteristics because sometimes horses just naturally have those colors, like a paint would have a blotch of a certain color on them. So Buck is a gelding, so he would be in a gelding class, which would be all males that have been fixed. And so the words such as feminine and things like that that portray to mares, which are females, would not be good to say in a gelding class. So you have to make sure that your terms that you're using are not gender specific or breed specific. For an example, a dish nose on an Arabian, since he's a quarter horse, he doesn't have it. But a dish nose would be if it goes from his eyes and down to his nose, it dips like this. And so if he was an Arabian, he would have a nose that went like this. And so that's something that you would want to say in Arabian class, but you would not want to say in this quarter horse class because it's not a characteristic that they'd want. Unless they do have it and it's undesired, it can be a fault towards that horse.